Namaste, everyone, and welcome to Stories You Should Know. I am Tarushi, and it's a beautiful, beautiful time to celebrate Pride Month. And who other than the winner of Mr. Gay World 2016, the youngest person to hold the title, Mr. Anwesh Sahoo. Hello, and welcome to the podcast.
I'm doing my own drum rolls because I'm used to it. Grew up with no support, so I'm like a multi-passionate.
We'll throw in some background music.
Some After Effects over
Of
here,
course.
some confetti in the
Absolutely.
background.
So, how have you been?
I have been great. I mean, look at me. What do you think? Feeling gorgeous, feeling like myself. I'm always on 100. Not always, actually. I think this on a serious note, the pandemic has been. I think it started off with I was like, अभी अच्छे से सारा काम करना है. This is a great time for me to sort of put myself together. I had just started up working full time, and I was like, this is a great time to really push myself, encourage myself to learn new things. And I think at the start of this year, things sort of started, becoming a little crazy. Especially, I'm somewhere in Delhi, NCR, and we all know what happened only a month
Right.
back, and the COVID situation was so bad that I think it started getting to me. And for the first time in this like entire 1 year, I was actually in a space where I was just so scared because my father goes out to work. He cannot work from home. He's an engineer, and he has to go to a plant and he has to work with workers. And for the first time, I was like, I was looking around and people were dying around me like mosquitoes, like they didn't exist. You see them, 7 days before, 7 days after, you get to know they're no more. And I think for the first time, I was a little, there was a little
Right.
rain on my parade. But I think now I'm sort of getting back to my little zone. Pride month obviously sort of got me all excited, all jazzed up. This is the one month where everybody celebrates us, and I feel I feel great. So
Right.
I think I'm in a good space right now, and very grateful to be able to work from home. No complaints. No complaints.
I think it shouldn't be just 1 month, right? It should be always. This celebration should always happen. But of course, yes, there is this 1 month, and everyone's talking about Pride and the community, which really, really deserves all the focus. But it should happen like 24/7, 365 days. Unfortunately, it's not, but we hope we reach there very soon.
Yeah.
To begin with, you were 16 when you came out,
Yeah.
and then you were 20 when you won the title. The
Yeah.
time duration, the period between 16 to 20, that entire space, what happened during that time? Like, what's your story when you tell people that when you came out at 16, this is what happened? But when you won the title at 20, and I know this because I read about you a lot and I heard a lot of interviews, you said that you weren't the favorite, right? Like, people win pageants and they become overnight stars, and people are just
Yeah.
loving them and everything, and you got hate messages. Like, the moment you
Yeah.
won, the morning you got hate messages. So this transition from the period of being 16 to 20, just tell me something about it.
So, like you mentioned, 16 was the time when I actually came out to myself first. And that was probably the most difficult aspect of that entire journey. Because you do grow up in a very cisgender, heteronormative world where you think the only way to be is to be, the only the only definition of normal that exists is that of heteronormativity. So if you're a man, you have to marry a woman eventually. If you're a woman, you marry a man. And when I started realizing that, the attraction that I felt towards men, that was actually called homosexuality. I didn't even know the definition of gay or homosexual or the existence of these words. But once I got to know about it, and then I realized that, this is not a phase. This is who I am. I am attracted to men, and this is going to stay with me forever. I just realized, I still remember like my heart sinking into my stomach because I realized that, okay, my life is not going to be easy from here on because we all know the representation that, queer men have had, or queer folks for that matter have had in popular media. And why just blame films or television, but every form of popular media that we've come across, even books for that matter, to popular books. I'm not, of course, literature has been very inclusive, but popular novels have always represented us or looked at us as just comic relief elements. And I just realized that my life is not going to be easy. And I remember just crying and just feeling horrible about myself because there was no hope at all. What am I going to look forward to? I People look forward to getting married. People look forward to having great careers. Here I am at a juncture where I'm not even able to focus on my career, on my 12th boards, because they're a big deal in India. I wanted to do well, but I was not able to focus. I was just like, I'm gay. Like, abhi ab iske baad kya karna hai? There is no point of reference that you have around you. But thankfully, I belong to a queer millennial generation, so I could go on the internet and look for, really weird questions, answers, and I found all of them one by one, step by step. And I remember finding these documentaries of Freddie Mercury, of David Bowie, Jean-Paul Gaultier, his shows, just finding people as points of references and feeling that, oh my God, now maybe there is hope. And I still remember, in fact, there was this video of Stephen Retchless. He's a pole artist and wonderful pole artist. And he was on America's Got Talent, where he was, by the way, bullied by one of the judges. He was mocked at, and he was wearing a pair of stripper heels. And he was looking beautiful, gorgeous. And I was like, wow, you can be femme and you can be beautiful. Like those two words never coexisted in my head. And he became my first point of reference. I was like, Acha, this is a possibility somewhere in the world, then it's a possibility in my life as well. And then one by one, things started just falling into place. I just took charge of my life. I was like, now I'm not going to let it go. I was at a point very suicidal as well. I didn't want to live at all. But I decided that I'm going to live and I'm going to rewrite my book. My book is not going to have a sad ending. It's not going to have a miserable ending. Because I'm not, मैं दीमक नहीं हूँ कि मैं छुप छुप के जीऊंगा. I'm going to be, an out and proud person, and I'm going to rewrite the history that we've had, and we are going to have a fabulous representation, at least in the years to come. I cannot rewrite my past, but I can rewrite my future. And
Right.
Mr. Gay World, happened. I decided to participate. I had to win Mr. Gay India to win to go for Mr. Gay World. But even through Mr. Gay India, as you've mentioned, even during the pageant, I was not like a favorite contestant in any sort. I was, in fact, the dark horse in the competition. And I was very happy to be there because I was selected, I think, around, out of 236 or some contestants there who had, pitched in for the competition. And I was selected to be there in Bombay for the final. I was just very happy about that. But when I reached there, I realized I was not delusional that, everything, I'm just fabulous, I'm great, I'm the perfect candidate. I was aware of who I was. I was aware of what I brought to the table, and I just stayed true to who I was as a person. I knew that maybe grooming was something that I wasn't ready with. You had to look a certain way, and I wasn't ready. But I was like, this is something that I can work around. If I win it, grooming is not rocket science. आप एक महीना अपने आप के साथ spend करोगे, and धीरे धीरे you will figure it out. So I was like, okay, let's do this. But then when I won, there was a lot of hate on the internet. People were just like the very moment that announcement went up on Facebook. Facebook was big back in those days, and people were just like sending out hate mail that how did this guy win this competition? He's black, he's brown, he's skinny, he's dark, he's ugly. कुछ नहीं आता है इसको, ग्रूमिंग नहीं आता, दाढ़ी कैसी है इसकी, इसको कैसे भेज रहे हैं. But somehow I was completely like untouched by all of this negativity. Maybe it did affect me internally in some way when I look back at it now. But I don't remember looking or reading those comments and taking any of them seriously, because I was mature enough to understand that, I switch off my phone, none of those hate comments exist anymore. They're just in a virtual cloud. And if that cloud is removed, they don't exist anymore.
Right. They're
So,
just the people sitting behind their computers and their phones and just spreading hate. So
yeah,
it's good thing that you didn't focus on it that much.
exactly.
So there's this one thing of coming out to your family, and then there is this another thing of going to a pageant and running for this pageant. So was there, what about your family? How did they take the entire thing about you coming out and then you going onto for a pageant after years after coming out? How did they take this thing up, and what was the support system kind of like before and after?
Yeah. So my parents were actually the last people that I came out to in my sort of little circle. I first came out to myself, then to my sister, then to my friends, then to my teachers, and then I was at the junction of sort of transitioning from school to college. So when I moved to college, I actually went out there, entered college being an out and proud gay person. So I remember, in fact. Facing some, fair amount of homophobia as well, some fair amount of femphobia as well. But I somehow was just so convinced that, I was in some ways, because I was just so out of the closet, I was invincible in my head. So I had sort of conquered a lot of, the evils in my head, and which is why it didn't matter if the evils existed still around me. So the only reason, perhaps, that I came out to my parents was the fact that I could not keep it to myself, anymore. I was like, I need to speak to them about this. They're a very important part of my life, and I can't keep lying to them. And I'm living with them. I can't keep lying to them. And then, secondly, in order to be able to participate for Mr. K India, I had to come out to my parents. It was a clause, because they don't want any unnecessary, fights towards the, once you're
Right.
into the pageant, and you're there for the finals. So I was like, "ठीक है, I mean, if that's the case, anyway, I want to come out to my parents because it's very important to me. And I know that they're not going to throw me out of the house. So it's safe and sound." But it actually, my relationship between my parents and me actually got really sort of, how do I put it? I mean, it had to suffer a few, bruises here and there, because my mother was very, very shocked, and she could not keep it to herself. Like, I would often see her cry many a times, and I felt very responsible for making her cry. My father was trying to be very strong, but he was also not happy with the fact that that I was gay, and that they had expectations from me. They were expecting that I would get a bahu to the family. Those expectations that you sort of grow up with all your life, but um, somehow I was not bogged down by any of those expectations, because I felt like, uh, this is the only way to be. There's no point in thinking about what are the things that would have happened. So when I won Mr. Gay India, there was a lot of sort of good publicity around me in Odia newspapers and channels. And somehow they had actually forgotten the fact that I was gay. They were more happy about the fact that I had won a pageant, on a national level. So of course there were a few questions here and there about me being gay, which I was completely fine with answering. I was already so comfortable in my skin that I didn't mind, even if there were some insensitive questions, I sort of brushed them off, because I was also basking in the glory of having won a pageant that I never really expected, in some ways, of winning. And so my parents somehow got used to that idea as well, and they were more comfortable with the idea of me being gay, but they were not comfortable with the things that came with it. Say, my dressing choices, for example. I'm also a certain kind of gay. I like wearing heels if I want to. I like wearing makeup, and I didn't grow up liking any of these things, but I mean, I grew up liking but hiding all of these things. But now I was able to do it out in the open. So they were not very comfortable with those things. They were not very comfortable with the idea of me marrying a man, for example. And I got into a relationship only six months after I had come back from Mr. Gay World. So there were certain things that they would refer to my boyfriend as your friend. And there were a few things here and there that they were not very comfortable with, but somehow it didn't matter, because I was also living in a hostel. I was still in college. I was dealing with my own set of things. So it didn't somehow matter what was going on with my parents. I was anyway away from them. I would meet them like, one week or 2 weeks max in a year. And then I was back in the hostel, where everybody sort of in some ways celebrated me, because I happened to be an engineering student who had won a pageant, and it was a big deal for all the boys and the girls. And they were like, अरे वाह, मतलब ऐसा भी होता है कि कोई engineering college में आके you go to a beauty pageant that too, and
Right.
I learned a lot of tricks of the trade. I actually started modeling professionally. So they would see my pictures in the newspapers. I did a few ads here and there. So they were actually more fascinated with the work that I was doing, and somehow the aspect of me being a celebrity or someone in popular media was more exciting to them than the fact that I was gay, and maybe that made it easier for me to be gay as well. So they didn't really mind. The boys sort of started getting dealing with me being gay much in a much healthier manner. They would initially, there were a few insensitive questions, a little questions like, Anvesh, are you gay? They would just come to me and they would just ask these questions to me, and it was a little uncomfortable because coming out again and again is not an easy thing to do. But somehow I managed. I was like, okay, it's okay. Like, let's not overthink certain things. It's fine if they want to know more about me. I should be more inclusive and explain them things. They're just curious.
Right. And you rightly said that winning this pageant did put you in a spot, it gave you that limelight. And now when you are there, you are in the spot where everyone is watching you, right? Now the pageant is over, you have won. Now people are watching you. They're watching every move. They're looking up to you. There's an entire community that is looking up to you because you have won this pageant. There are so many people who are yet to come out, right? And they're watching you and they are seeing you as an example, as an idol suddenly. And then there are a lot of other responsibilities which comes in with the fame or with the limelight that you get, especially at this position, because now you are a representative of your community. It's
Yeah.
not just you, it is the entire community. Whatever you do is going to reflect an entire light on the community. Does that get to you, like that responsibility? Were you ready for that responsibility? Are you still ready for that responsibility or not? Like how do you manage that?
Well, even when I was, crowned the, winner of Mr. Gay World India, I knew that I was going to be representing India at Mr. Gay World. But in the truest sense, I don't think I am the truest representative of the community because our community is very diverse. There are trans folks, there are intersex folks, there are, lesbians, there are bisexual folks, there are asexual folks, and I don't think I understand all of these varied aspects of the community well enough to be called the sole representative of the community. I was there to represent my community, my work, and represent in some ways what it meant to be a femme gay boy in India. So I always made sure that I'm talking about my story in context to what my backstory has been, and not trying to always portray this image that I am the sole representative of the community, because that is not true in any way at all. And I shouldn't try to do something where I might actually not be very inclusive of the entire community. So I have never really thought about this pressure that's there on my head. I'm there to represent myself in the best of my conscience, and if I'm true to my conscience, then it's fine. And I always believe in being myself every time. Even when we're having this conversation, I'm not putting up a facade of trying to talk like a certain person or trying to be the representative of Mr. K India. Mr. K India has already chosen me as a representative, so that's I've already overcome that little hurdle in my life. Now I'm just here to represent my organization, the work that I do, my community in some ways as well. And I just try to represent the best version of me. I try becoming a better version of me each day, each passing day. And I think once you do that, everything else is sorted. No, overthinking everything is just going to make things worse.
Right. And getting talking about your work, because you just spoke about, how you represent yourself and how your work represents you. And I
Yeah.
know like your work represents a lot. It talks about like gender, and not just one gender, it just talks about gender issues, right? Tell me something about your work. Explain how you came up with this, because you are an artist, and then
Yeah.
expressing is a part of art. So just tell us
Mhm.
something about your work and everything about it.
Sure. Thank you. I'm very glad that you asked this question because my art in some ways also dots my entire process of understanding gender as a spectrum, from it being a binary concept for me growing up and now being able to celebrate the entire spectrum in the truest way. The reason why I wanted to the I've been drawing actually all my life. But I think the reason now I'm able to connect to people the way I am with my work, it's because it's very true to myself. And I feel like everybody in some way or the other is a misfit in their own way. And that's why they relate so much to my work. I started out with the effeminaire, which is a Latin word which associates itself to being, feminine or being effeminate. And that idea is always looked down upon. And I wanted to take away that stigma from the word effeminacy. I'm a femman, and I wanted to live a more dignified, empowered life. How do you do that? You do that by taking that stigma away, by reclaiming that word, by taking the negativity away from it, and step by step you build a little bubble. And Effemina was that. Effemina was that utopian world, that utopian bubble I had created for myself, where everybody accepted me the way I am, where I'm able to accept everybody who's doing good work, by not adversely affecting anybody else. So it was actually a space where I just followed, I understood my conscience and just followed my conscience in the truest way. And slowly and steadily, it became this little community where, it just has become, about a talking point for a lot of misfits. And of course, I bring in a lot of, femme, non-binary, queer representation to the forefront with my work. I'm so glad that, through Mr. Gay India, and then through a lot of the work that I've done in the past, now I've reached a point where a lot of people consume my work, and I've become a content creator of sorts. And people look at my work and they get inspired by it, or they recreate my work, or they recreate the pictures that I do. And it's fun, it's interesting, it's lovely to see how people sort of understand and consume my content as well. So yeah, I'm just trying to bring in that empowered representation of queer femme men of color through my work. And I hope to continue doing this and trying to rewrite what all that was all that misrepresentation that existed in the past for us.
Right. And now, before we wrap up, I want you to say something for the entire community and the people who follow you, especially the village and the community you have built over the past years. People who follow you, who talk to you, who look up to you. Whatever you want to tell them, whatever you want to say to them, a message, a monologue, or something heart to heart, anything.
Yeah. There was people say, quote that I had read in Robin S. Sharma's The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. It might seem like a very cliched book to many, but I remember when I read it, it gave me so much hope for the future, and I kept, held on to that book forever, and I still have it, underlined. The quote says, "You all hold, we all hold such infinite potential within the fortress of our minds. Dare to tap into your greatness. It is your birthright." And it is a quote that I've always lived by, even till date. There is so much potential within all of us, but sometimes someone tells us that we're not good enough, or sometimes even a saboteur, it keeps telling us that you're not good enough, you can't do this. But if you believe that you can, if you truly embrace yourself, then you can reach the infinity. There is no limit to how much you can achieve and how much greatness you can actually spread in your life and around you. So just keep striving only and only for the best, and always also aim at leading a very peaceful life. And I think when there's when you lead a peaceful life yourself, you're just going to create a lot of good energy around you, and only good things are going to happen to you. You're going to meet good people. Like today, I met Darushi. So there's good energy all around you, and yeah, that you're going to live a very fulfilling life, and that's what we're here for, right? Like living a fulfilling life, simple, peaceful, shanti se jeena hai hum sabko.
What a beautiful message to end this podcast with. Thank you so much for being part of Stories You Should Know. Happy Pride Month, and I really hope we get to do this more often soon, and I hope you be safe.
Thank you so much, Tarushi. Thank you for having me. It's been such a crazy, Pride Month, but every time I get to have a conversation with wonderful folks like you, it only adds to my life as well. So very grateful to be sharing the space with you and your audience, and a very happy Pride Month to all of us. So hearing us, watching us, whichever medium you are on.
Absolutely. Everyone, thank you for listening to us. Please be safe and keep listening to Stories You Should Know.